Math Whiz. Inside and outside. Which picture shows bottle inside the beach bag? Awesome! Which picture shows watermelon inside the basket? Wonderful! Which picture shows toy boat outside the beach wagon? Wonderful! Which picture shows rake outside the bucket? Fantastic! Which picture shows toy truck outside the beach wagon? Fantastic! Which picture shows soccer ball inside the beach trolley? Very good! Which picture shows shovel inside the bucket? Well done! Which picture shows volleyball outside the beach trolley? That doesn't seem right. The correct answer is... Which picture shows slippers inside the beach bag? You are brilliant! Which picture shows pineapple inside the basket? Awesome! Which picture shows bottle outside the beach bag? Great work! Left and right. Which object is on the right? Fantastic! Which object is on the right? Great work! Which object is on the left? Great work! Which object is on the left? Wonderful! Which object is on the right? Great work! Which object is on the right? Congratulations! Which object is on the right? Awesome! Which object is on the left? This is not correct. The correct answer is... Which object is on the left? Great work! Which object is on the right? Correct answer. Which object is on the left? Fantastic! Left, middle, and right. Which object is in the middle? Awesome! Which object is in the middle? Keep it up. Which object is on the right? Fantastic! Which object is on the right? Great work! Which object is on the left? Fantastic! Which object is on the left? Awesome! Which object is on the right? Keep it up. Which object is on the right? Good job! Which object is in the middle? Keep it up. Which object is on the right? Very good! Top and bottom. Which object is at the bottom? Correct answer. Which object is at the top? You are brilliant! Which object is at the top? Congratulations! Which object is at the bottom? Wonderful! Which object is at the top? Correct answer. Which object is at the bottom? Well done! Which object is at the bottom? Well done! Which object is at the top? Wonderful! Which object is at the top? Great work! Which object is at the top? Correct answer. Top, middle, and bottom. Which object is in the middle? Wonderful! Which object is at the top? Well done! Which object is in the middle? Keep it up. Which object is in the middle? Congratulations! Which object is at the bottom? Fantastic! Which object is at the bottom? You are brilliant! Which object is at the bottom? Great work! Which object is at the top? Wonderful! Which object is in the middle? Good job! Which object is at the bottom? Awesome! Above and below. Which object is below the chair? Congratulations! Which object is below the sunbed? Very good! Which object is below the hammock? Awesome! Which object is above the chair? Good job! Which object is above the sunbed? Awesome! Which object is above the hammock? Correct answer. Which object is below the table? Very good. Select all the objects below the table. Wonderful. Select all the objects above the table. Well done. Select all the objects below the table. One more time. Correct answer. Beside and next to. Which object is beside the seagull? Congratulations! Which object is next to the guitar? Keep it up. Which object is next to the beach bag? Well done! Which object is next to the apple? Awesome! Select all the objects beside the socks. Great work! Select all the objects beside the volleyball. This is not correct. The correct answer is select all the objects beside the socks. Fantastic! Select all the objects beside the watermelon. Correct answer. Select all the objects beside the soccer ball. Good job! Select all the objects next to the orange. Keep it up. Select all the objects next to the beach bag. Keep it up.